Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Context. I am super excited for today's episode. We have an amazing group of speakers here, and we're going to be diving into talks on the MCP Registry, MCP management, and all sorts of interesting things. So, before we get started, I'm Shannon Williams. I'm your host. Darren is out today, but we have, like I said, a great group of people here to really talk MCP and get into all things MCP related. So, a couple quick housekeeping episode issues before we get going. The MCP Dev Summit slides from London are all up on YouTube. If you want to watch any of those presentations, they're now live and up. And we are, I believe, 1 week away from opening up the call for papers. It looks like it's going to open next week around this time on the 11th. So hope everyone is excited and starting to think about what you want to present for our New York event. The context has been going crazy lately. We have been hosting special episodes. We've been diving into all sorts of things about the latest MCP release. If you haven't seen that talk we had with David 2 weeks ago, I would highly recommend watching that. He gets into all of the thinking behind what went into the release from last week. We talked a little bit about the MCP first year anniversary, and lots of exciting stuff going on. So please definitely go back, watch some of those old episodes, and we've got some great stuff coming. In fact, in addition to today's talk, we have 2 talks coming up next week. Actually, we're going to do a special episode. I don't know if everyone saw, but the week before Thanksgiving, when we were off, there was an announcement of this new MCP apps project that is kind of converging all the work that's being done at OpenAI and Anthropic and the MCP UI teams around a new MCP apps standard. And so the founders of MCP UI are going to join us next Tuesday for a special episode where we're going to talk all about this new MCP apps. We're going to do a deeper update on MCP UI, where it's at, where it's going, and kind of talk about the future now that there's a new project. On Thursday of next week, on our normal episode, we have a member of the technical staff at Anthropic, Adam Jones, who's going to be joining us to talk about code execution. We've talked about this sort of in a number of different episodes over the last 2 months, 3 months or so. But Adam wrote a great article on Anthropic's blog about, kind of how to approach this. It has definitely changed for the better, a lot of the MCP design that's been going on. So highly recommend attending that. And then we have a interesting talk from the team at Main Matter to talk about the Svelte framework and how they built an MCP around that, something we are very familiar with here at Obot because we use Svelte. And so we were excited to see Paolo submit a talk and get him on. So if you would like to talk and join us and present something cool, present what you've built, if you're a founder, if you're a user, if you work with MCPs, just scan the QR code, send us a proposal, and we'll get you scheduled. We have sort of 2 slots a week. They're pretty much full for the rest of the year, but we have plenty of spots in January. So, come on down and let us know what you'd like to talk about. For those of you who've never been to an episode of The Context, we try to keep this pretty tight, and we get usually 1 to 2 talks every week. They're fast. We keep them to about 20 minutes. And if you have questions, you want to ask anything, whether you're watching on YouTube or X or LinkedIn or Twitch or wherever you are, just type them in. I usually see them, try to work them into the conversation at the end. And should be a lot of fun. So with that, let's talk about our 2 talks today. Our first talk is all about the registry. We have 2 speakers here, Toby Padilla and Craig Jalick. Welcome, gentlemen. Excited to hear your talk. They're going to be talking about what's been going on with the MCP Registry project. We've had talks on this at both of the summits. It's progressed over the last couple months. And our team here at Obot, Craig and I work together. We've been working on implementing it and working with Toby because GitHub has been doing some amazing things to allow organizations to kind of manage registries through GitHub that can kind of flow all the way down into clients like VS Code. So should be a really interesting talk. I'm super excited to have both Toby and Craig here to talk about that. And then afterwards, we're going to be talking with the team from MCP-cloud.ai. And they are a startup that has been building a management tool that can do all sorts of selective tool access and tool aggregation. And excited to see Valley and Alex come and talk. They've been working on this project for a little while. So should be a lot of fun. And with that, let's get started. Craig, Toby, let me get your slides up. Toby, I think you're going to be presenting first.
Yeah.
And Toby, you said you're heading out to Redmond immediately after this to work on MCP related doc. That sounded kind of cool. I was just maybe just a little peek for those of us kind of our MCP fans. How much has MCP kind of exploded inside of GitHub? I mean, it seems like, I was at GitHub Universe and it was literally in every conversation. Obviously we had the night. It seems like maybe more than any organization of its size, other than maybe Anthropic, you guys have just fully embraced MCP, and it's obviously leading to some of the stuff you're doing in the product.
Yeah, we've gone all in on it, right? So we've got the GitHub MCP server, which is one of the most popular MCP servers out there. I'm on the MCP steering committee as a co-maintainer of the registry, along with Adam, who's going to be on your show. I think you said talking about code mode next week. We have been integrating the registry all over the place, and I think that's what we'll talk about today. So I was going to give like a high-level overview of this, but it's really taken off, right? Like we're 1 year into the life of MCP. And it's become this like standard for AI tool calling, and it's become a bit of a phenomenon. It's got an amazing community, and I think you guys have done a really good job sort of hosting the events and having a lot of these streams and stuff. So it's been really cool. It's just been a really fun thing to be a part of. And at GitHub, I remember, I'm only 1 year into my role at GitHub, and when I started, I kind of got to take on MCP. So I grew my role along with MCP, and it's been a really wild ride. At first, it was like, a blog post from Anthropic, right, and the original reference servers, and now there's just so much going on. I think we've got almost 2,000 MCP servers published to the registry. Like you said, we've embraced it. Microsoft has embraced it. We've got a bunch of people on the MCP steering committee. We've got a bunch of MCP servers that we built across sort of GitHub and Microsoft. And I think today when we look at the registry and how we're starting to integrate it into the product, into like as governance and as an allow list and as a place for open source maintainers and startups to publish their MCP servers, it all kind of makes sense, right? Especially when you look at where MCP servers live today. A lot of them, most of them, in fact, start their lives as GitHub repos. So that's kind of was the foundation for us to go all in on this. And we've been seeing sort of a really good return on that investment from just the empowerment that all of this technology gives to AI.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll get out of your way. Can't wait to hear your presentation today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just start off. This will be quick, but I want to give an overview of a lot of these pieces and how they wire together. And then I'll hand it over to Craig, and you can start to see how these standards enable different pieces of the puzzle to connect and start to create this good amount of value. So at the sort of base layer, we have the open source MCP registry that we've been working on with Anthropic and the MCP steering committee. And what this is meant to be, and I encourage anyone to like go to this repo and give it a look and give it a star, this is the canonical source of public MCP servers. It's not really meant to be hit by end users directly. The idea is that as an MCP author, you publish your server and your server updates into this open source registry, and then downstream registries will pull from this. And these downstream registries are meant to be integrated into platforms or add sort of value or a particular skill. So for instance, the GitHub MCP registry, which I'll also show, pulls from this registry, and we enhance it with our data. So for us, that's star counts, readmes from repos, and then we do sort of a deep integration into VS Code. And so this is an open source project. It's entirely written in Go. If you know Go or you're passionate about MCP, I'd encourage you to come take a look at this. We've got it live and hosted. We've been hosting it. Anthropic's been helping us host it. You can go through and kind of look at the API here and how all this works. If you're an MCP author, a server author, you need to publish to this. And there's a few ways to do this now. We have in the MCP registry, you can go into the docs and take a look at publishing somewhere in here. I think I had it somewhere in there. But basically, you can use the CLI tool to publish. So we have, if you look at the releases, you'll see that we've got a command line tool that will allow you to publish your MCP server. And what you do with this is you run an init, and it'll give you a skeleton server.json, which is sort of the structured file manifest that you use to publish this. And then you go through and you edit it and you change it so that it has all of your data inside of it. And then you can also hook it up to CI. So if you have like an actions workflow or something, you can use that to publish directly to the registry. And in the interest of open source, I was actually talking to my buddy Carlos earlier today, and he runs Go Releaser, which is, if you're a Go developer, you'll know it as a way to automatically publish the homebrew and to get your GitHub releases built and all this. Well, he just added support for publishing directly to the MCP registry. So we're starting to see this open source standard get adopted by not just GitHub and not just Anthropic, but really big open source projects. Because if you look at Go Releaser, he's got quite a few stars here. So starting to see more and more ways to get your MCP server into the upstream open source MCP registry. Now, downstream from that, you'll see, for instance, our MCP registry. So you'll notice that we only have 54 servers in here and not 2,000, like I said. Part of this is because we're being very cognizant of just working out all the bugs in the OSS registry. So we're very much building that in public, and we want to make sure it's really secure. But these 54 servers are coming from the open source registry. So we're sort of allow listing them now with partners, big open source projects, our own stuff. You see a bunch of Microsoft here. And like I said, we're enhancing this by sorting it by stars. If you go in here, you can see the READMEs for these things. All of this is sort of a work in progress, but our goal is for it within the next month or two to open the floodgates and just allow self-publication to this. So this is going to jump from 54 to 2,000, 10,000, 20,000, right? As soon as we start seeing this sort of get adopted by more and more people. And so stay tuned for that, but this will be self-publishable very soon. But this right now is just a curated set being synced from the open source registry, which actually makes it easier on all of these server authors, because as they publish new updates to their MCP server, it automatically gets synced to the GitHub MCP registry. And let's take a look at how this works, because one of the things that we do for integration into our platform is installation, one-click install into VS Code. And so if I'm on the GitHub MCP registry and I find an MCP server I want to use, I will just install it in VS Code. And it's going to take me in here. I think I already actually have this one installed, so let's maybe not use that. It'll take me in here and install the MCP server somewhere in here. You can also see that part of our integration is that we've got this is loading, the servers in VS Code themselves. So when you're in VS Code and you're browsing MCP servers under the extensions marketplace area, all of these are coming from the GitHub MCP registry. So once again, once we open the floodgates and make this self-publishable, you'll be able to see your MCP server show up directly in VS Code here. So it's kind of a cool integration. And one of the things that we're doing, and I think Craig will talk more about it, so I'll kind of transition it to him after this, is using this open source standard API that we're defining in the registry as a way to help unlock enterprise adoption for MCP servers. So if you talk to big companies, often you'll hear a lot of excitement about MCP, but they're not ready to go all in on it because they're worried, and I think correctly so, that there might be malicious MCP servers, there might be buggy MCP servers, there might be a workflow that sort of exfiltrates private data. And so what they want is a governance layer around MCP usage inside of their organizations. They want to say like, okay, we're comfortable with these 3 MCP servers from the public MCP registry, and we built, say, like 12 MCP servers privately that we use as like the finance department and the design department. What we've encouraged people to do, and what we're starting to build in the GitHub, is create a registry that adheres to this open API standard. And what we've done is allow enterprise and org admins in GitHub to go in and put any registry that supports this API in as the allow list in that for everyone who's a member of their org or enterprise. And what that means is that we then pass that registry to VS Code, IntelliJ. We're starting to support it in all of our surface areas. And those are the only MCP servers that people in that organization will be allowed to install. So this starts to unlock the door for enterprise adoption. And so we're excited to work with you guys on that, because this is sort of part of the talk that we're giving today, is that you're starting to adopt this standard. So you can use Obot as your allow list and your governance engine sort of for MCP usage inside of your enterprise.
Yeah, exactly right. All right. Oh, sorry. Okay. So I'll pick it up from there and just kind of explain using Obot as that governance layer for your enterprise's own MCP registry. Just really quickly, I'll jump into a demo, but just to explain what we're looking at here, this is the basics of what you're going to see. VS Code is going to reach out to GitHub. The user is going to authenticate as their GitHub user, and they're going to essentially get back that MCP registry URL. Then we'll get back the list of servers from that registry. And then with Obot, the way Obot is not only a registry, but it's a hosting, MCP hosting and gateway platform too. So if something in the registry is a remote server, the connection will proxy through Obot, allowing administrators to do things like audit logging. I've actually demoed this before on the context, so I won't stay too heavily on that. Or if it's a standard IO server, but you want to run it in a secure environment, you can actually launch that on Obot and basically treat it as a remote server. So that's what we'll see. I'll actually start by just jumping into, just show really quickly where you control this in Copilot. In GitHub. So if you go to GitHub in your organization and then jump down to Copilot policies, you'll see there is configuration for MCP servers here. You can turn it on. Here's where you can drop in that allow list MCP registry URL. And then additionally, this option basically says, should they only be able to install things in the registry, or is that sort of just the starting point for browsing? But from there, I will open up VS Code. And cool. And then we'll just see super quickly here, we'll browse MCP servers. You can see this is the list that Toby just showed. So this is GitHub's MCP registry. What I'll do from here is I'll go ahead and grab our instance of Obot and drop it into the registry URL. So off of sort of Obot is software you can install in your enterprise. It can be in your cloud environment, wherever. But at basically /v0.1/servers, you'll hit the registry endpoint that exposes the servers. So if we now go back to code inside VS Code, I actually have to reopen it. It seems like it works best if you reopen it and then pull the list up again. You'll see this list is now being pulled from my company's instance of Obot here. And you can do things. Ant vchart is a common one you'll see out in the world, but this is a standard IO server. Typically, you would install it on your laptop. I clicked install here. Because we're going to launch this on Obot itself, it's actually treated like a remote server. So I'll click allow, and VS Code will kick me out to basically authenticate with my instance of Obot and kick me back. And now we can see, sure enough, this server is installed and you can access it. Where the governance comes into play is when an admin comes to Obot, they can control exactly what servers users have access to. So that list of servers was basically every server that we've granted access to all Obot users here. So if I were to just, you can see I say everything in the global registry. If I get rid of that role and we just say, just Gmail, confirm, update, pop back over to VS Code and refresh my list here, you can see, okay, now users only have the option to install Gmail and nothing else. I'll say one interesting note here about how this worked with authentication. I think shortly before Thanksgiving, authentication on the listing servers part of the registry spec was merged. And I don't think that support for authentication is in VS Code yet. But basically, should your registry endpoint be unauthenticated and anyone can hit it, discover servers, or should you have to go through a very similar OAuth flow to MCP servers to see what you have access to? What we've done in Obot is if you've configured it with authentication turned off, then anything the admin has assigned to all Obot users will show up in the registry. If you configure your Obot instance to have authentication turned on the registry, then that'll be customized to like you. So, if I said Toby could hit Gmail and AntV and 2 other servers, when he hits the registry, he'll just see that smaller list. So the idea there is simply, by team or department, your security team, your DevOps team can control exactly which servers are discoverable by your end users. So I sped through that pretty quickly. That kind of is at the end of the day what encapsulates this ability. And like I said, with Obot, you can have all these controls for governance, for historically doing audit logs, and you can even control exactly how servers are deployed, how much resources they get, all of that. Obot's open source. You can pop over to Obot platform/Obot, give it a star if you like. You can install it yourself. We just released support for this MCP registry endpoint yesterday. So I'm excited to see folks trying it out and giving us feedback.
All of this is very early, right? And so this is why we're building in public. Like you're literally hosting stuff off of localhost as we talk through this. It's been like us working together for the last few weeks. The auth point is a great one, right? Like we don't support that yet in VS Code because we just merged that in on right before Thanksgiving, like you said. But the use cases and the demand is there. You have a design team, they should have the Figma MCP server. You have a development team, they should have the GitHub MCP server, whatever's personalized for your role in the company. And so one of our goals with getting the authentication merged into the registry was to mirror exactly how OAuth works on the MCP servers, because we want to make it easy on the hosts to implement this, right? Like they've already gone through. That's been shifting sands as well, right? The OAuth flow on remote MCP servers, and it's a lot of work for the hosts to adopt all this, and it's changing yet again in the latest version of the protocol for the better. But what we wanted to do is just piggyback on all that work and hopefully allow these hosts to reuse a lot of the code. So we didn't want to do anything that was any different from how you would authenticate into a remote MCP server. But ultimately, we'll see that in all these surface areas as well, where we identify you as a user. You won't necessarily have to make your entire list of your company's MCP servers public to the outside world, right? Like it wasn't an issue at first so much because a lot of these people are running it on private networks, which is one way to sort of block the access. But ultimately, it makes a lot of sense to get the auth in there. And you guys are very well positioned to do that, right? Like you already have this role-based authentication and you can give back the server list. And it's great to see that you have the audit logs on there, because once again, these are the big issues that are blocking sort of MCP adoption in the enterprise. And so I think as products like Obot step up and to do this, it's really going to help get adoption out there for some of these more bigger, maybe more conservative companies with sensitive data. So it's great to see all of the pieces like come together. And it's kind of fun that we're building this in the open, right? Because you don't always do this. Sometimes it's like, oh, we'll go heads down and we'll come out with the perfect product in 6 months. But because so much of this came from the MCP steering committee and this open source project, and MCP in general is very open source, we get feedback, right? And this has allowed us to connect and start building on this more so than if we had at GitHub gone heads down and built this without any feedback. So I think it's a demonstration of not just how MCP works, but how open source can work to really fulfill even bigger companies' needs like this.
100%.
It's interesting timing wise, because as we think about where we are, and it's just like we're like just almost where this is all going to kind of come together. I mean, I think about like it's great to have a client like VS Code out for developers, and that's going to be your early adopters of this. But Copilot Studio supporting this, I'm hoping and I'm almost confident that that's probably coming. And then suddenly you're like, oh, this is going to ideally be in almost every platform, and I'll be able to very quickly jump. N8N will have support for this, and any of my other sort of agent development platforms would have support for this. So building a kind of a generation of tools that can take advantage of this is what I'm looking for. My question to you guys, and maybe this is a Toby question more than a Greg question, is like, how far away are we from those things? Like, do you feel like we're 3 months away from the rest of the client ecosystem supporting this? Because right now it really is like I'm struggling to find other clients besides VS Code that have even adopted the registry stack. I was reaching out to Block, and Angie actually was like, hey, Angie, any chance you guys are working on adding this into Goose? And I'm really curious if you're hearing of other client developers that are building this in.
Well, interestingly enough, if you remember the first MCP Dev Summit in San Francisco, Alex was on stage with Tatis and I, and our demo was actually getting this into the Goose Extensions marketplace. So I have faith in that team, and Angie's amazing, and everybody's over there is amazing. So I think that they'll get in there. VS Code is funny because we're so on the bleeding edge there, and Harold is on the MCP steering committee, but they have like tens of millions of developers, right? So it's not just a small project, which I think helps get some adoption and desire to put development resources in from these other hosts to get it. I think at Microsoft, we're all in on MCP, right? Like across the board. So you'll see it get picked up. It's just because everything's moving so fast, the downside to that is some of the bigger players are waiting to see, like, okay, when does it stop changing, right? Like when we've got Authn, it's all working. We've gone from this V0 to V0.1. Are we going to do V0.2? There was a lot of discussion around what should be in the first API shape, right? Like, do we need a display name for servers, right? We went back and forth on that one for a long time because there was potential for spam, but really ultimately one of the things that kind of went over this argument was when we were at the last MCP Dev Summit in London. We had the steering committee meeting, and I'm like, guys, we got to capitalize the H in GitHub. Like, how else are we going to capture this capitalization that we need? You know, if you don't do that, everyone's going to wig out. And so they're like, okay, we got to get the display name in there. And I think now as well, I'm hearing that like Anthropic and Stacklock and a bunch of other people are operating in this space, and so we're starting to hit these same needs, right? Like, oh, we need auth, right? This is a need. So once the requirements have been thoroughly vetted and we use VS Code, one of the biggest pieces of software in the world, to sort of like deploy it, I think we can look at that as a reference implementation, and you will see it get picked up elsewhere. And I also think once we at GitHub open the floodgates to the self-publication, and you've got I've made a server, I publish it, and it shows up on GitHub /MCP, that as well is going to spur adoption. And then it'll be a bit of a carrot and a stick, right? Whenever you have these like two-sided marketplaces like this, you have to get the ball rolling. But I think we're doing a good job of that. We're getting more and more traction. So it's not immediate, and I'm not even going to say it's like 3 months from now, but this is a foundational layer for the future of agentic development, right? Like AI needs to use tools. And so this is going to be there for hopefully decades going forward. So we're moving as fast as we can at this point, but I do expect to see more adoption, and probably like you're alluding to, outside of the developer space as well. Hopefully sometime this year.
I think I couldn't agree more. And I'll tell you, as a person who uses AI all the time across lots of different tools, like I'm not a developer by trade. So I use it in VS Code, but I use it in other platforms all the time. The idea of being able to have, even outside of work, but just to be able to have a personal registry of all my MCPs that I have wired up, configured, kind of tied into better auth that I trust, and that I don't have to run locally, don't have to install, and can quickly jump back and forth between OpenAI, Claude, Anthropic, VS Code. Like, my MCPs should be centralized. I should have all my MCPs at my fingertips wherever I go. And I don't really, honestly, I want them in, I want them next to Siri, right? Or I want them in Google. I want them everywhere because I want one for my Amex, and I want one for my United Airlines, and I want one for all the other things that I'm expecting to see MCPs on in the next years. And that side is only going to happen when I can really sort of tie my identity to my MCPs and then drag them around with me because they're mine. And I think that is actually probably how it's going to end up. Maybe it'll be a super agent that I tie it all to, and that comes with me, or it's going to be my MCPs in some kind of a catalog. But as soon as that materializes, I just see the experience for my dad, for my son.
I love that use case, your personal ones, right? That you rolled with your data. Yeah.
It's like, I can do this, but it's a pain in the ass. I spend so much time reinstalling and updating. It's just a pain in the ass. And it's like, oh, this is fine for techies. It's fine for developers. It's fine people who are doing this because they are super excited about the tech. But my wife just wants this to work with all of her shit, and it's ideally through talking to her phone. Like, that's how she's expecting it. And so this is awesome, guys. And really appreciate you coming on, sharing this, showing what you're built. And I've been hearing this from Obot users for a while now. Is like, could we get sort of more of a standardized approach to registry? Can we put this stuff together? So I'm very optimistic we'll see this in the next year become a kind of key part of how people are thinking about their internally MCP infrastructure.
Yeah, and thank you guys for embracing the standard, right, and pushing this forward. It's important for GitHub and Microsoft to do this, but it's also important for startups and open source developers like Carlos at Go Releaser, right? We're seeing so big companies, startups, open source individuals. It's great to just see it like across the board, because I think that's what it takes to really make this standard.
100%.
Well, thank you guys, because honestly, it's like we get excited about this stuff, but there's nowhere to run it without a client. It's really hard to show the value. We've been just like, well, we have our own little client, but it's not the client that people are using every day, right?
Yeah.
Like our web-based inside of Obot client is fine for people that are just looking for something fast, but the really powerful clients need to be supporting this, because we are in a multi-client universe, and I think that's not going away. Like I personally want to be interacting with AI through all sorts of different clients. I have a feeling.
Me too.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and really appreciate the work, Toby, Craig.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Our next talk is a team from MCP-cloud.ai, and we've got Vali and Alex. You guys are joining us from, I know one of you is in London, and then which one of you is in London, and where is the other person? Maybe start with that real fast.
No, I'm based in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, not London.
Yeah.
Amsterdam. Vali, you're in Amsterdam, and Alex, where are you located?
I'm based in Athens, Greece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, lucky you guys. Which one of you has a storm going through? I saw one of you send a note.
Yeah,
like,
that was me.
storm.
It seems to be fine, but if something cuts off mid-presentation, then Vali will just take over and keep going.
You know what's the beauty of having a co-founder? You know, you're on your own.
Exactly.
If you're just a founder, you're really screwed when the storm comes through. But you get a co-founder, man, everything gets better.
That's a nice allegory.
At this point, I think I've got 8 co-founders. I just keep accumulating co-founders. It's great. Just, why stop with one? All right, guys. Well, super excited for this talk. Alex, you're gonna kick us off, and really excited to hear more.
Okay, I'll start my presentation. Let's put it here, and if everybody can see, Vali will start doing a small intro. Go ahead, Vali.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. So both me and Alex, we started MCP Cloud beginning of this year, April, May, because we actually needed it. We were developing agentic workflows, and when you develop them locally, of course, it's easier. But when you deliver those things to customers, then they have to be reachable in the internet. So it started as a need, and then the feedback was quite positive. So that's how we turned into a platform, which is now today MCP Cloud. We are approaching nearly 1,000 users, and I think that's partially because the platform is fairly easy to be used. Goes along with the low code platforms. It's very easy to deploy an MCP. Just copy the code, bring it in, and then you start using it. You'll see it later on in the demo that I'm gonna deliver. And partially because we see that a lot of people adopt MCPs. I think I was reading some articles that it's probably one of the technology that with the highest adoption rate. So both me and Alex, we come from the infrastructure, DevOps, cloud solutions. So it was actually fairly easy for us to start building the platform, make it secure, make it reliable, and that's how we started it. When we started, we didn't have a registry, so we built one, and all the MCP servers available in the registry were tested manually and curated by us one by one. But I'm gonna hand it on to Alex, so he's gonna walk you through the journey and also present what we recently delivered for MCP Cloud.
Hi everyone. So yeah, as Vali mentioned, this is a platform that allows you users to do cloud-hosted MCP servers that are accessible remotely. It's mainly targeted at people that use workflows and agentic workflows, and that they need to have them running somewhere where they're accessible to be able to kind of execute their workflows at any hour, not just run them locally on their computer. So we offer a very easy way to deploy MCPs from a curated registry. For now, we only allow images which we host on our own platform. It's a one-click infrastructure, basically. It's authenticated. So basically, you can give out access selectively. We recently delivered ability to do MCP aggregation and tool filtering or selection, basically only a subset of the tools. And we also have the ability to do a security assessment. It's kind of like an automatic security assessment of an MCP server to we have some heuristics in place which tell you, okay, this is more dangerous, this gives write access, this gives read access, etc., because many people have asked for this kind of assessment for especially when they start using new MCP servers that they're starting to integrate in their workflows. So just to I'm gonna tell you a bit why we went with the custom tech stack. Previous architecture when we started off was built based on off-the-shelf parts, and it was quite inflexible when it came to delivering various features. So we said, okay, let's put a bit of effort and build a custom operator and proxy that runs on Kubernetes that will allow us to kind of deliver more specialized features that are not so easy to do with off-the-shelf parts. We really wanted more control, basically. So yeah, and then we ended up with an operator and a proxy that can be installed on any Kubernetes cluster, which will spin off MCP server pods and allow you to kind of mix and match different tools from different servers based on the filtering that you do in the proxy. So this can be quite flexible. So what it brought us and what we're kind of moving towards at the moment, we deliver tool filtering, tool aggregation as well over multiple MCP servers. We're able to run different MCP servers with different transfers, right? As we know, some MCP servers are only able to be executed and with the standard IO transport. Some of them now deliver HTTP, but with this approach, we can mix and match the traffic. So basically, we can have any kind of either like streamable HTTP or SCC, which has been deprecated now, but still a lot of clients use it. And we can send it through the proxy to any kind of transport that an MCP server might support. We do authentication, which is customizable by the user, and it also allows us to do scale down when there's no connectivity after a certain period of time, which also can save on cost for us and the user. What we're heading towards, basically, the whole reason why we build this was to kind of open a bit the future to be able to build more specialized features. As we've seen, basically, there's all kinds of challenges with the MCP protocol and integrating it with agents. For example, we've seen Docker just recently ship this dynamic tooling, and this is what we're working as well at the moment. So a kind of intelligent virtual MCP, which can basically on demand bring whatever tool you might need and even start new MCP servers for you. Real-time security scanning of payloads. We're working on this as well. And we're also considering allowing companies to run this whole tech stack if they want to run it on their own Kubernetes infrastructure as a one-stop solution for running all their MCP servers. Yeah, I would say that's about it with the overview. I think Vali will now do the demo, and we can discuss a bit more about future work and possibilities after the demo.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alex. So yeah, I think the demo is going to help to clarify exactly how the operator works. So this is basically the dashboard where users can see their MCP servers. They can create new ones and copy like code blocks that they can put into their preferred clients and use them from there. I'm not gonna dive too much into this thing. We also have the workbench, and this was one of the features that was requested to be able to inspect the tools for different MCPs, to scan them, as well as to monitor them. So those are available, and I think what we're trying to build is try to build like a Swiss knife for the MCPs, so the users can have a good understanding of what they're running and how they're running. But the feature that was we released a couple of weeks ago is this virtual MCP. That's how we decided to call it, and this allows users to basically aggregate different MCPs or very specific tools from different MCPs into one single endpoint. So it's fairly easy. I'm just gonna choose a couple of them, and I'll build one of the virtual MCPs. What I'm gonna do, I will remove all the destructive tools, so to say, the ones that can alter the Notion database, for instance, in this case, and retrieve query, create comment, and then I'll just do the same for the other one. There's a Neo4j MCP, so I'm not gonna allow it to perform any write or delete actions. It's only going to be allowed to read. So we're just going to copy the NA10 block. We're going to move to NA10. I hope it's visible. And we just have this MCP endpoint available, and we already see the tools available. So we see the Neo4j tools along with the Notion tools, the one that we made available for it. So it's that easy. What Alex mentioned, now we're using the streamable HTTP. We also have support for server-sent events, and it's as simple as just changing the endpoint here. And then we'll be able to retrieve the tools. Previously, users were forced to redeploy the MCPs if they want to change the protocol. So that is one of the virtual MCPs, and I'm just gonna run some couple of prompts for this is gonna retrieve some incidents from Notion database. This was part of the workshop that we delivered a couple of months back, and we're gonna ask the agent to perform some changes into that one. So one of the multiple benefits of being able to filter out the tools at the MCP level is that will especially when enterprises are going to adopt these things broadly, then you can select which MCPs and which tools you want to give to certain users. So for instance, imagine that if you run in development, you should be able to run destructive actions such as drop tables, delete, updates, but maybe in production you don't want to do those things. So I think that's where the virtual MCPs would allow enterprises to have more control over how they want to operate and use their infrastructure services. So yeah, I was able to retrieve, like, there are like three incidents in a Notion database. We're not going to focus on that one. I'm just gonna ask if we have any Neo4j entries for these incidents. I'm gonna ask it to. So this single MCP is gonna be able to run, connect to both Notion and Neo4j at the same time. So I think we're moving the MCPs closer to the agents to really fulfill their to be able to fulfill their tasks, reduce the context, so they don't have to load all the tools and all that information in the context, because what we notice is that the smaller agents, the smaller models, that they don't deal very well with the MCPs that supply a lot of tools. They get confused. They don't know which one to use, and that's a big problem. But once you know how you want to run the agent and what tasks it's supposed to do, then it's much easier to select the tools and allow it to use only those tools only. Yep. Yeah, this is the agent that.
Very cool, guys. I mean, this is a interesting product and interesting approach. I love how you kind of incorporated Kubernetes into your architecture. I have a couple questions, if
Sure.
you don't mind.
Go ahead.
My first one is just trying to understand, just kind of architecturally, what you guys are delivering. So, is this a SaaS platform? I mean, it looked like it when I went to your cloud. It looked like you log in, you get an account on the dashboard. How does that connect to an operator? Do I run the operator on my own Kubernetes? Maybe you can, tell me a little bit about sort of that and kind of how you guys have approached, the architecture of this whole platform. Because I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna do an intro, and Alex will take over and explain exactly how the operator works. But the platform allows users to host MCP servers. So in case you need an MCP server, you just go there, pick one from the registry. We have 80 plus templates in there, and then it's a one-click deployment for an MCP. You're then provided with the code block that you can go to the client and then inject it in there. The operator does
let me stop you there for a second. So
yeah, no worries.
So do I? So if I sign up for an account on the website, I get one. Do I immediately need to install an operator, or can I use your?
No.
I can use your 80
I think
templates out of the box, right?
Yeah. The confusion comes from it's basically a technical implementation detail, and we brought it up because we are thinking to offer it as a separate service, but it's not part of the core offering.
Okay.
Perhaps in the future we're going to offer it as a service, or we even maybe open source it. We haven't really decided
Okay,
about
so
that. We're still kind of
the
working on
operator is
it.
like so I get I sign up for an account. I have access to a rich set that you guys have curated and developed of MCP servers. And now I want to host my own. I install the operator on my Kubernetes cluster. And then when I identify an MCP that I want deployed, it will actually call from the platform back to the operator and deploy the MCP server. And then it'll show up in my registry. Is that how it works?
Yeah, you make it sound really complicated. No. So the operator is only helping us to deliver
Only helping
to our,
your company. It's not helping.
Yes.
So I don't deploy it on my Kubernetes. I deploy it on your Kubernetes, or it's deployed on your Kubernetes.
Yeah,
for
it's deployed
hosting.
now.
That is a different story.
Yes.
So
yes.
Okay. So
companies
this stuff
can
is all
actually
running in the cloud. From as far as I'm concerned, everything is running in the cloud.
Yeah.
and-
Everything is running in the cloud, basically. Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay, that helps me because I wasn't quite sure if this was running on my Kubernetes. And
Yeah.
Okay.
However,
Now,
enterprises can take this together with the operator and run it internally into their organizations. So this
that makes
also,
sense. I mean, that would be going to be my next question: is there an on-prem version of this that I could take and implement the
Yeah.
entire stack behind the firewall? I'm like a government, and I want a high level of security. I imagine that that's a possibility as well.
Yeah, exactly. We're not doing marketing. We haven't said anything on the website about it yet, but we've had some discussions with a couple of organizations that were interested. First of all, they wanted some expertise on how to run them, and then of course this whole operator idea came through.
Got it. Okay, cool. So that makes sense. Then my second question for you is more about just the business model then. So how do you guys charge for all of this? I sign up and I pay a monthly fee of some kind or another, or is it
Yeah, exactly.
per, based on how many MCPs I use? How do you charge for the platform?
subscription based, yes. So
Okay.
basically for a number of resources and a number of MCP servers.
We have some pre-made packages basically. So we have some tiers, let's say, so which gives you a number
Kind
of
of typical
MCPs.
SaaS pricing. Then I come in,
Yeah,
I
it's
sign up,
very
I get
straightforward, and we're still learning a bit. But yeah, this seems it has been working out until now.
perfect. And then my last question, Craig may have some more questions, but my last question I thought was I really was excited when you showed kind of the scanning side in there. Can you explain a little bit about what you do there? I get an MCP server. Now, if it's your MCP server that you guys are providing, I assume I don't really need to scan it. But let's say I'm bringing an MCP server from the wild that I want. I drop it in, I click scan. What happens?
So that was a strategic decision to implement the inspection and the scanning because we started with the templates that we provide for MCPs, but this is the first step towards allowing users to bring their own MCPs, because as part of the deployment of their own MCPs, we're gonna scan them, and if they do not pass that scanning, we're not gonna allow users to deploy those MCPs.
So are
on our
you
platform.
scanning with a specific tool? Like what are you scanning using?
We scan pretty much all the tools available on the
I mean,
MCP.
what are you scanning it against? Is it a whitelist scan? Is it a blacklist?
Yeah,
Like
it's like
is it
like
something
a
you guys built, or is
CD.
it using an open source scanner that you're using?
It uses an open source scanner, and it uses similar to CVE database with the vulnerabilities, and that only applies to the MCPs.
Got it.
So that's what we check it against.
Very cool.
So
Craig, any questions you had? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think a couple. One, so is bring your own MCP server in there now, or is that kind of you're working?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, we're working towards it, but it's based on your talk and Toby's talk. It was really like inspirational to see. Basically, there's GitHub was working on the registry. Of course, Docker now has a really large registry. And I think it's time to open it up because it is a rat race to keep up, like keeping your own registry. So I think we now have the feature set that I think the next step will be to open it up so people can just point to the registry in GitHub or Docker and just run something from there.
And do you envision supporting, the different runtimes that are out there, NPX, UVX, containerized, kind of any of those?
We already do. Actually, that's one technical detail that we haven't mentioned. That was part of our transition to the operator to be able to we support all the popular ones. So now, right now we support UVX, npm and Docker containers. But of course, we can customize the templates to run anything. Anything that can run inside a container is good to go.
Right, makes sense. I always like to ask what's next, like any other big features you're working on or kind of see coming.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Vali.
So we have some ideas. So maybe so having this operator will allow us to tap in with controls into the MCP. So basically, you can have segregated permissions that will allow users to access the tools. We can build an MCP to dynamically generate an proxy with certain tools based on the task that an agent would be tasked with. We're also considering exposing public MCP servers via like that behind have access to paid APIs over the X402 payment protocol that was released not so long ago. So we have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
I would very much like to integrate with your registry, because to be honest, curating 80 plus templates, that took a lot of effort from our side.
Oh yeah, I think
But
we're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And if I may add some notes there, because I really like what Shannon said a bit earlier about having your own MCP. So like right now, if you think about it, MCPs are separate pieces of software that run independently. But I think what people want is a single endpoint, which is theirs, which aggregates all their MCP tools. We don't care if what code, where it's running, how it's running, but you want to be able to access that, to be able to kind of achieve that through your agents. And of course, once you layer also something like X402 with payments on top of it, you can really start to have some very interesting interactions there. But these things are kind of developing as we go, and we're looking in that direction, prototyping with some stuff, and it's really exciting. We're also really big users of agents, and we use AI in our day-to-day life, and it feels like I feel naked when I don't have them somehow available. I'm getting dumbed down, which is another maybe side conversation that we shouldn't have now. But
it's funny you say that, Alex. This I had kind of a rough. We had a holiday break last week, and unfortunately, my dad was really sick. He's 82, and he was in the hospital, and he was dealing with pretty serious complications. He was bleeding in his brain, and they had to do CAT scans, and they were trying to stop the bleeding, but he's old enough that it was really challenging, and they weren't sure if they could do surgery. And it was like 4 days of ICUs, and I have this huge extended family, his brothers, his cousins, like my cousins, my sister, everyone. And about around halfway through, I started to, kind of start using ChatGPT to just start kind of giving it all the information that's happening. Like, okay, we got this report, and I got this from Kaiser, and I got this piece of information. And I kind of explained to it without creating an agent or anything, but I just was like, hey, look, I'm trying to communicate with all these people, and I've got like 4 levels of depth that I need to communicate what's happening almost in semi real time, because I'm getting, if I don't communicate, I'm going to get 500 texts from people asking how my dad's doing. And it was amazing that ability, I was having to copy and paste from Kaiser updates and like notes from the doctors and lab results that were coming in talking about specific things. But the ability just to sort of take what I knew and verbally explain it, and then get it pumped out into text I then had to copy and paste. Like we're so close, and yet the hoops that we're jumping through to make it all kind of work together, because Apple sucks and hasn't done shit to make and make any of this stuff work well inside of the Apple ecosystem. And we're getting the same kind of like walled gardens where nothing really works well together, and you're jumping back, and it's like, oh, I've got to. It all kind of sucks, quite honestly.
Basically, you're
without it,
messages
I would have been
between all these systems.
Yeah, it was like I was literally copy pasting, jumping on my iPhone. Right, I wasn't even doing it on a laptop. I'm trying to go back and forth, and at the same time, if it weren't for that ability to sort of summarize and also answer 100 questions I was having at the same time in a different thread about all my dad's issues, so I could ask intelligent questions to the doctor and sort of not, kind of, skip ahead a little bit. It was just, it was that moment where you're like, my God, how valuable is this technology when it crashes into reality and you're dealing with something urgent and, you know, your point of being naked. Like, I feel like if I hadn't had it, I would have felt completely overwhelmed at this point, which I don't know if that's a crutch that I'm developing. Like, I need it there to fill in gaps in my knowledge, because I'm running into, in this case, you know, neurosurgery, which I know nothing about, obviously, and, you know, brain, yeah. And I just had this, like, you know, this feeling that, you know, we're just a couple years away from an era of unbelievable experiences, where in the most important moments in our lives, we are going to have enormous support to go through and quickly understand and quickly communicate and quickly comprehend, and just so much. Anyways, it was like that first time that for me, I kind of went beyond like, oh, this is really useful in my day-to-day work life, and I love to like, I don't know how, like, not having it would have absolutely been a different experience. So yeah, it was naked is, I think you said it perfectly, Alex. We're entering a very interesting time, and not having it will feel very naked.
Yep.
Well, with that happy thought, guys, congratulations on the company. It looks like you guys are onto an awesome path, and I can't wait to see how you kind of build the virtual MCP stuff up, and where you end up going with your company. And everyone out there that's watching, go give it a download, give it a play, sign up for a trial, and see what you can do with MCP-cloud.ai. Guys, thanks for joining us today. It was really fun.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right. Yep. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.